Okay, so we're recording and it's just going to take 1 minute for the Facebook Live. So Deandra, while we're maybe going, do you want to just maybe talk a little bit about what we'll be discussing today, or Alejandro, whichever one? Just like this is World Wildlife Day and kind of all of that, and if you'd like.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. Today we'll speak in the celebration of World Wildlife Day, which happened on March 3rd of every year. And this is just to remind us of the importance of wildlife and hopefully do something about all the threats that they're under. Hopefully we can stop that. And yeah, it's going to be a fun night. Lots of learning, lots of interesting things, and we will discuss. We will tie up all that global information into what we're doing here at the Maplewood Flats, and for that we have Deandra and also Nicole, who will be supported with the technical issues with Zoom.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're almost there. Give me 1 second. Perfect. Okay, everyone, I think we're going live. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alejandro, for doing that short intro. I appreciate that. All right, everyone. So like I mentioned, my name is Nicole. I'm the digital communications coordinator. I'm the digital communications coordinator here at Wildbird Trust, and I will be kind of moderating a little bit. So if you have any questions, definitely either message in the chat or you can message me directly. Before we begin, I just wanted to let everyone know that here at Wildbird Trust, we are situated on the unceded, the ancestral, and the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, and that includes the Tsleil-Waututh First Nation, as well as the Squamish First Nation and Musqueam First Nation. And us at Wildbird Trust are dedicated to strengthening that relationship with Tsleil-Waututh Nation and the Coast Salish nations that whose land we reside on, and to work towards reconciliation and redress. So after that, I'll introduce our two hosts for tonight. So Alejandro and Deandra, who both work here at Wildbird Trust, and they're going to be giving you, like Alejandro said, a beautiful presentation, just looking at what wildlife is around the world, and all the different things, and also kind of here at Maplewood Flats as well. So without further ado, I pass it off to you guys. I'll share my screen for you.
Thanks.
All right, let's start the presentation. So yeah, just want to take this few seconds just to remind people to use their chat box, just to let us know what your favorite animal is and why. Say hello, and let us know, like, if you like lions or gorillas or chimpanzees or macaws, just let us know.
And if you're watching from somewhere and you're comfortable sharing it with us, we'd love to know too. We get people from all over the world tuning in, so it's pretty awesome. All right. Oh, I think I have to start the slide again. Give me 1 sec. Okay, let me know when you can see it.
That's good.
Perfect. All right, and just let me know next slide.
All right, we go next slide now. So this is what we should be expecting in this presentation. We will speak a bit about the global biodiversity, just like general concepts. We'll learn about our planet and life on our planet, and also it goes from that to a subset to smaller group, which is wildlife, and why it's important, and what are the threats to wildlife. And from that, we'll take another, yet another smaller subset of wildlife, and we'll focus on that urban wildlife, the one that exists next to our houses, just behind our backyards, that we see at night. So we'll speak about that, and then from that we'll concentrate a bit more about what we do here at the Wild Bird Trust to protect and conserve wildlife. And after that, we'll have a round of questions and answers for you all. We go to the next slide, please. So this quote is from Chief Seattle. He was the leader of the Suquamish Nation in what it is now the United States in the 1800s. And this just a reminder that we are related to nature. We are interrelated with all the elements in nature, and we're not above the nature or the laws of nature. So whatever we do to nature, we are doing it to ourselves. Next. Right, so what is biodiversity? The biodiversity, as the name implies, is the variety and the variability of life forms on the planet. And this goes from, from animals, from vertebrates or invertebrates, fish and jaguars, to also ecosystems like coral reefs or wetlands or forests. That's part of biodiversity. And also, keep in mind that also the genetic variability is also part of the concept of biodiversity. Think of yourself, how you are so different than your brother or sister or mother or father or your neighbor or everyone else. So all those, every species has genetic variability as well. And this is part of the whole concept of diversity, biological diversity in the planet. The next one, please. So worldwide, at our planet scale, this is what biodiversity looks like, more or less. And this goes for pretty much every type of plant and animal. Most of them tend to concentrate along the equator, just because it's warm, and it has been warm and humid for several millions of years. So historically, those species have created more species in those areas, and it's a stable climate, stable weather, and those are the proper conditions for all the species to be. And this is what you see there is the map of the terrestrial biodiversity, which also marine biodiversity follows a similar pattern. It's more diverse along the equator, and as you go to the poles, north or south, it decreases. And it's especially marine biodiversity is particularly high in the Western Pacific, which is from Australia all the way up north to Southeast Asia. We go to the next, please. So all these areas that need the concentration of biodiversity have high number of endemic species, and endemic species are the ones that are only live in that particular area and you cannot find anywhere else. So global biodiversity hotspots is like very diverse regions, like they exhibit high levels of diversity, but also high levels of endemic species. What the criteria to declare them as a hotspot is they have to contain at least 1,500 endemic species, and at least 75% of that habitat is intact. So you would say, like in North America, we have California is really diverse in terms of plants. Then we travel farther south, we see Central America and the Caribbean islands are highly diverse, lots of different habitats, ecosystems, and species. And then we go south, obviously close to the Amazon and the Andes. It's very, very diverse. And the other side of the world, we have the Horn of Africa, the Mediterranean. It's also very diverse. And then was probably one of the most diverse regions in the planet is Southeast Asia. We go to the next, please. But you have to keep in mind that those, even though we have those areas with high levels of diversity, animals, wildlife is not static. Many of them can travel like long distances. And this is the case for birds, for example. And these are how this map shows how they move in the planet from north to south, looking for warmer temperatures in the winter. We see in our continent, for example, we have three flyways. It's the Pacific, Central, and the Atlantic Americas. And then we have 5 more. And I'll show you the next one. Slide, please. And this is how it looks as we change in the seasons. You can see how the flock, all the, not all, but many of those bird species travel down south to sometimes Central or North or South America, looking for warmer temperatures in the winter, and then they fly back in the spring to their habitat in North America. And we go to the next slide, please. So from that broad concept of biodiversity, we have like smaller group of animals or of creatures that we call wildlife. And for many of us, wildlife, the term wildlife is specific to animals, but for like some other people, the term is a little bit more, it's a bit broader, and it can also incorporate plants, fungi, and many other creatures. For us, we'll leave it for animals, fish and animals, fish and wildlife. So wildlife, as you might know, an ecological function in the ecosystem, and they are part of a really complex relationships and interactions. And once they are removed, they can affect the whole balance of affecting entire ecosystems, depending on the role of that specific species that was removed. Also, because they have a cultural significance, they've been with us, or we have been with them for millennia. That we have, our culture also has evolved with them, having them. And one specific example that I can give you is like some of the religions, use wildlife or have wildlife as their deities, gods and goddesses. Perhaps not they don't worship the creature, the animal, the species itself, but what they symbolize. Think of owls, for example. They are portrayed as wisdom and many others. And think of, for example, the Egyptians, how they worship jackals and cobras and ibises. Think of the Mayans, they worship jaguars and monkeys and macaws, and First Nations here, not in Canada or North America, they worship eagles, ravens, whales, and wolves. So they've been part of our culture for millennia. We go to the next slide, please. And also, wildlife is very important in economic terms. They contribute significantly to our economies. And one of the examples that I can give wildlife is, for example, tourism. In the specific cases, you can see in the picture is safaris. Safaris, it is estimated that they bring in $1 billion per year, $1 billion per year. And in some islands, the World Economic Forum estimates that the shark tourism like people who go diving and they want to see sharks. Those nations can rake up to like between 20 to $40 million per year. And bird watchers in the United States, according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they contribute with $32 billion per year just in bird watching. And then wildlife is very important in nutritional terms. You have to keep in mind that many of these communities in the world are in remote locations, and wildlife can be the one of the few, if not the only source of protein for those communities. We go to the next slide, please. So these are some of the threats to wildlife, because as you know, humans are waging a war against nature, against wildlife. And one of the primary drivers to deterioration, to decrease in populations, is the habitat loss and deterioration. Nowadays, this particular threat constitutes 85% of the species that are threatened. 85% of them are threatened by habitat loss and deterioration. Deterioration is one like a pristine forest goes from that to shrubs because it was cut down, and now we have habitat with less quality. So that's one of the primary drivers of population decline and even extinctions around the world. We go to the next one, please. Another one, this is overexploitation. We have to remember that we have used animals for like generations, for millennia, as I mentioned before. Just remember how animals, lions and leopards, were captured by Romans, and they were displayed in those gory exhibition performances at the Circus Maximus. And from that, nowadays we have the modern exploitation of wildlife, and like for example, the fishing industry is becoming more and more efficient at removing everything that's underwater. Also, there's the harvest of parts of animals for as medicine, or sometimes they are removed as and sold in markets as pets. We go to the next slide, please. So and this is an imminent threat, given that we don't seem to find an agreement on how to stop climate change. And this will affect everyone on this planet, and wildlife is no exception. And the first one who will suffer the consequences of our actions are Arctic wildlife, Antarctic wildlife, those who live in the poles. And one iconic example is the polar bear, that once the ice melts, it will be hard for them to find shelter and food. It is estimated that in 80 years, polar bears will suffer from starvation and reproductive failure because they won't be able to find food. And with polar bears, there's other species like walruses, narwhals, reindeers, and like terrestrial environments that won't be able to find food very easily, or as easily as they do nowadays. And also outside the poles, lots of other species will be affected. Think of how the water, the ocean currents, and the winds will be warmer, and how that's going to affect migrations and yeah, affecting many other species. We go to the next. So this is this is the website of one of the, if not the main organization that leads the fight against wildlife population decline. It's called the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature. It was created by UNESCO back at the end of the 1940s, and they collaborate with world leading scientists, like experts in every species, and they summarize all that information for every species, and they can say officially that this species is declining or stable, as you can see in the images, stable, or population is increasing. Some of the species that we lost in the past century is the passenger pigeon, for example, that some accounts in the United States where it was native from. They some of the settlers they wrote in the notes, and they say, like, when they went hunting for the pigeon, they could see the sky getting dark, completely dark, because of the flocks were so big that they will cover the light from the sun, and it will go for minutes. And from that, we went to zero to the last one in 1918. It was it died. And that's an example of how we perceive something that we think it's abundant can just go to extinction in a few decades. So you can check it out. That's the website, the web address down there, iucnredlist.org, and that's a very relevant name for that website. The red list of all the species on the planet. Some of the currently highly endangered creatures, animals on the planet is the snow leopard, the Amur leopard, that's lives in natural habitat in between China and Russia, and the vaquita, which is the Gulf of Baja California, and many others. So they're not alone, unfortunately. We have more on that list. We go to the next slide, please. And the next one, please. So now from that, we spoke about biodiversity and then wildlife, and now a smaller, like narrower subset of wildlife, and this is the urban wildlife. Now we have Deandra, who will speak about that in the following minutes.
Thank you, Alejandro, for giving us a broader view of wildlife. And since one of the main threats of wildlife is habitat loss, which are mostly caused by urban development, some species of wildlife have learned to adjust to live in densely populated area. And as you can see here, we have a raccoon, coyotes, and black bear. And these are some of the animals that mostly roam our neighborhoods. And sometimes they came out of their habitat because they can no longer find food that used to be there. So they try to find food in our trash bin, bird feeders, or even just people walking by who will throw food at them. Next slide, please. And because of our behavior and our urban development that decreases their habitat, some of these animals can become food conditioned, meaning that they are more used to eating human food than looking for their own natural food. They can also become human habituated, meaning that they are not afraid of humans. And these situations can unfortunately lead to some conflicts, and it almost never ends well for the wildlife. And as you can see in some of these headlines, the wildlife is becoming bolder and bolder in urban areas. So it got us thinking, like, why should we care about them if all they cause are nuisance? Well, they also bring benefits to us as well. Since we have learned from Alejandro about the importance of wildlife, urban or not, they give us a lot of benefits. Next slide, please. They contribute to our ecosystem services in urban areas. For example, pollinators such as bees and wasps help pollinate the plants in urban areas, which gives us beautiful spring and bountiful harvests in our gardens and the birds would help spread the seeds of our plants in various places, thus contributing to the biodiversity of our parks. And this biodiversity can then lead to the resilience of our ecosystem. Having healthy ecosystems are very important because it contributes to our air quality and water quality, which then leads for our health and well-being. And as you can see, there are some of the predators. Previous slides, please. Some of the predators also provide the biological control for other species. Like in this picture, coyotes, they actually help with the eastern gray squirrel, which is an invasive species that was introduced to Vancouver in early 1900s. These squirrels are a threat to our sensitive Garry Oak ecosystems. So despite the coyote encounters that have been on the news recently, they do still give us some benefits. And because of all these interconnected benefits that we have between urban wildlife, people, and urban green spaces, we should learn how to live alongside them so we can minimize our conflict. Next slide, please. The Wild Safe BC, a leading conservation foundation on how to prevent wildlife conflict, has numerous resources based on the common species that have been found in our urban areas. I encourage everyone to look up the species that they are particularly concerned with. In the meantime, we have some general rules on how to coexist with wildlife. First, understand all you can about the wildlife that share the landscape with you. The more you know, the better you are able to avoid conflict with them. The better you're able to access resources that are specific to those wildlife as well. And second, understand that removing wildlife is a short-term solution. Another wildlife will just take its place. Then you will lose resources and time if you keep doing it. So a longer-term solution would be managing the attractants or putting a barrier between the attractant and the wildlife. Next slide, please. And the third one is very important. Avoid feeding the wildlife. By doing this, you will actually be helping the wildlife stay wild. And when we feed wildlife, they become dependent on humans for food. They can lose their ability to find their own food, which is a very important skill that they must pass to their next generation. And this applies to all kinds of wildlife. Bears, birds, deers, no matter how friendly they seem. Next, we have limiting or omitting the use of fruit-bearing plants and nut producing trees. And these trees are highly attractive to bears, raccoons, even coyotes. So if you do want to plant them, make sure that they are not near any windows or entrances. And make sure that you trim the branches that are close to the ground so they don't provide cover as much and easier access to the tree. Trim the branches that are directly in your windows. There have been so many instances where it is an access point for squirrels, rats, and raccoons. And last but not least, protecting the urban green spaces that we have. By protecting and helping the conservation of the green spaces, we are providing urban wildlife with the shelter, food, water, and space that they need, which will minimize their venture to neighborhood areas, which then also decreases our chances of encountering them. And these are basic general rules that mostly apply to the BC area. I encourage everyone to access the numerous resources out there to a specific wildlife that is concerned in your neighborhood. Next slide, please. And so helping the protection of these green spaces can look different for everyone. Here are some Wildbird Trust BC Conservation's effort at Maplewood Flats. Our own Habitat Committee Chair, Chloe Hartley, studied the effects of two invasive plants, the Himalayan blackberry and the English ivy, on the plant community at Maplewood Flats. So we found that these invasive species lowers the plant diversity of the sites they occupy because of their dense coverage. We also found that there is a lower bird presence where these two species are the predominant cover. So in our efforts to help the wild birds that live in the area, volunteers and staff deploy invasive plant management around the Maplewood Flats conservation area. And then we replant the area with diverse native species. Next, please. We also have a program called the Purple Martin Nest Box. The purple martins are the largest swallow in North America. In the 1980s, they almost went locally extinct in BC, but the installments of the nest boxes at Maple Flats and Rocky Point in Port Moody has greatly helped the species to recover. So every year, Wildbird Trust would put the nest boxes when the purple martin returns and then take it down when they're ready to migrate again. This is done to maintain the nest boxes in great shape and also to quantify the nesting activity by counting the number of eggshells or deceased baby birds inside the nest. Next slide, please. We also provide educational and environmental programs. We as people can't really care about something that we don't know or have any connection with. So through our programs that we are running this year at Thursday, 7 p.m. and Saturday at 11 a.m., we aim to help build and nurture people's connection with nature. We have a variety of programs such as plant profiles, where we focus on learning a couple of plants at a time, intro to birding that can help people learn how to bird and identify the bird that they might find in their backyard, some kids program, and many more. So all of our programs can be found in Eventbrite, but the recordings of the events will also be posted on our YouTube channel, Maple Flats. Next, please. And finally, we would like to thank everyone who has made the time to learn about wildlife with us and our efforts at the Maple Flats. If you haven't already, you can follow us in all the social media to stay informed and updated about all programs. And now, if anyone has any questions.
All right. That was amazing. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I'll look at the chat. So if anyone does have any questions or comments or anything like that, definitely write in our chat. And if you want, you can also unmute yourself and ask. And so either one is fine. I'm going to just check the chat first just to see if we missed any. Lots of cool animals. That's awesome. Yeah, I think I'll get it started off. So first of all, you two, Deandra, Alejandro, that was amazing. That was really good. And I feel like I learned something new every single one of these events. And I think your graphics and your information were really beautiful. I guess my question is, have you ever seen firsthand, like the effects on wildlife, especially like at the flats, maybe like the chickadees, or like a good example for anyone who's not aware, at the flats, because people were feeding the chickadees for so long, they became accustomed to that. And now when you're actually walking through, even if you just like point your hand up to look at something, chickadees will fly and land on your hand because they think you're feeding them. And while I think a lot of people think this is really cute, or like they're like, oh, we're helping them, it's actually really hurting the animal. It's harming the animal because now they're reliant on people, right? And I think we saw examples of this when, especially when quarantine first happened, and a lot of these tourist places in like Southeast Asia or Japan, where they have like islands of like animals, like maybe monkeys or deers or whatever it might be. They were very dependent on tourists feeding them, right? Same as the seagulls at Granville Island. They were very dependent on people feeding them. And when that was taken away from them, these animals had no idea what was going on. And unfortunately, it caused a lot of like chaos and aggression between each other, which is not good for anyone, right? So I was wondering, like, if you guys had any examples, and you can talk maybe more about the chickadees if you want to, but if you guys had any examples of that, where you either saw or you knew about a situation where human interaction with wildlife was causing some kind of rift.
Yeah, I can take this one. I've seen it in the flats where I do trail maintenance, that chickadees would just kind of come to you, and birds are supposed to be scared of you. but instead they actually are coming to you because people usually bring seeds with them and then feed them. Yeah, and also by feeding the wildlife, like some wildlife that are predators, like the coyotes, it actually changed their behavior because they now are no longer afraid of humans. And there are consequences when they're not afraid of you and they don't give you what you want. They might also hurt you in the end.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
aggression.
they can harass you. I've seen it with the monkeys. Well, it's like several species, but monkeys one of them, especially in the where there's a lot of tourists and
Yeah.
those touristy areas. The people go and feed the monkeys, and when and now, like if you don't do it, they go and harass you. They steal your food. They literally come down from the trees or from the building, and they steal your food. Sometimes they go into your backpack and like try to open it and take whatever you have inside, and they can be quite aggressive sometimes. So that's a problem, and the reasons why, for example, zoo animals cannot be released in the wild is because they lost all those instincts that help them survive in the wilderness. And what we're doing here, like feeding these animals, like making them very dependent on us. So eventually they won't be fit to go out and look for food or yeah, so it's a problem.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's sad because, animals deserve to live the life that they were meant to have, and that's living, wild and free. And unfortunately, when us humans, interact, it can cause really, big issues. And of course, there's a lot of conservation movements to restore it, but even at our own site, we have a lot of people, we have signs up, don't feed the birds, but unfortunately people still bring things like that. And where it gets really bad is that a lot of times, if birds conjugate in one area, they can spread disease a lot easier, and unfortunately that also hurts their own population as well. So yeah, there's issues like that, and people feeding them candied fruit or bread, things that they're not meant to have, right? So yeah.
That's right.
um,
That's the collateral damage too. Like people leave all those pile of seeds, and then squirrels and then rats feed on those, like increasing the population of rats, and even like squirrels have a problem. Um, so yeah, it's I think wildlife and nature is best to leave them undisturbed.
yeah, exactly. And we were discussing this a week or so ago, but unfortunately when also human interaction when it comes to like rodenticide, right? So like when you use rodenticide to kill rodents, a lot of these rodents, when they ingest it, they can live up to a week, kind of slowly dying, unfortunately, which is painful for them alone. But unfortunately, they go out into fields or wherever, and birds of prey will then see them. Obviously, it's their natural instinct, and eat them, and then that also harms those birds. And so it's kind of like this, this like endless cycle where we're not just hurting one animal, but we're actually affecting a lot. And that's not good, right? So yeah, there's one question where the Maplewood Flats is. And so we're located in North Vancouver, just about a kilometer or so from the Second Narrows Bridge, and we're a bird conservation site. So we're a few acres of land that's kind of just dedicated to that. And like Deandra said, we do different programming, and we have different conservation things such as the purple martin box, and etc. So definitely come on by. We have I can't remember how many kilometers of trails. We have quite a few, like a good long trail that you can go. It's about 30
We have
minutes.
3 different trails.
Ooh.
Yeah, a short one, a medium one, and a long one.
Nice, exactly. So yeah, so come on by. It's a really awesome spot, and yeah, acceptable activities. Yeah, appreciating nature, walks, bird watching. Exactly. So we should definitely say that, you know, our site, because it's a conservation site, it's meant to help those birds have a safe place. So, you know, no dogs, unfortunately, at least on the larger trails, and on the mud flats especially, and no jogging, things like that. So yeah, exactly. Jogging, biking, feeding the birds, and no dogs. But does anyone have any questions? I'm wondering, like, maybe you guys have, yes, cameras are okay. Yeah, we have tons of people that come down to take photographs of the different birds, the different walks we have there. And actually this, you know, coming month, March, April, May is a great time to be down there because all the birds that are migrating, all the animals that are waking up, you know, the black bears are waking up, we have deer, all of that. So yeah, definitely come by. And usually our nature house is open on the weekends, so 11 to 3. So, you know, there's a washroom there and stuff like that. But if you're coming any other time, just make sure you're prepared. But yeah, but I just want to know, does anyone have like anything they want to share, or maybe their favorite? I know a bunch of people were sharing their favorite animal in the chat. So if you have any animals that you like or any experiences in nature that were really either phenomenal or really special, definitely unmute yourself or write in the chat. Freddie, you said, is there parking? Yeah, there's parking. Definitely, there's kind of limited parking because we share the site with another, like, Eco Canada or something.
Environment Canada.
Thank you. They also use that parking lot, and it gets a little bit busy on weekends, but we have an off-site lot. But definitely come early if you want to get a good parking spot. Eagle or leopard? Ooh, that's Freddie and Claude's favorite animal. I love the eagle. That's one of my favorites.
There's
What-
lots of
what-
eagles right now.
Yeah, what kind of eagles? I like the harpy eagle.
I love
That's
bald
that's
eagles.
bald eagles, yeah.
Yeah. Deandra and I actually saw 2 eagles mating about a month ago, right? Or maybe a month and a half
It's
ago.
really exciting.
It was
Cool.
so beautiful, and they kind of do this dance in the sky together. They kind of like fly parallel to each other, and then I don't think we saw this, but they actually lock talons and they do like a free fall dive down in the air, and it's phenomenal to watch if you guys ever get a chance. I
Cool.
think it's usually mate in like February, January. Yeah.
And what is Deandra's favorite animal?
Oh, I don't have one. I like all of them. But then, like, Alejandro asked me, because I'm from Indonesia, he asked me what my national animal was, and we talked about Komodo dragon. If anyone knows about it, they were one of the 7 wonders of the world. They're like a giant lizard. They're so big, but they're also very slow because they're big.
I have a photo of it. I'm gonna share. Give me 1 second.
Also,
Yep.
additional information if everyone's like interested in birds, the osprey is coming back soon, I think, in the spring. So we have these osprey birds that keeps coming back every year and nest around the same area. Yeah, and we have an osprey festival to just kind of like watch the osprey comes back.
Yeah. So
So yes, those are it.
Oh my goodness.
They're just like dinosaurs, like giant lizards.
Yeah, that big.
Whoa, that is wild. I'm gonna show you guys ospreys. They're very beautiful too. Osprey. All right. Yeah, so these birds are quite amazing, and you can see them come to the flats every year. We actually have an osprey festival. I think it's July, so definitely stay tuned for that. It'll be really fun. And they build nests and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, they're quite a special bird. I'm gonna open it up to last questions really quick, and then if not, we'll let everyone get on with their night. But we really do appreciate everyone coming out. But I'll just give it 1 second. Oh, we're going to Bali to get photos of the dragons.
Oh,
Yeah, nice.
yeah, it's a little island that you get to from Bali. It's like the whole island is a national park. So it's really exciting. It's really pretty.
Komodo Island, isn't it?
Yeah.
Komodo Island.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I want to, hopefully once this pandemic's over, I want to get back traveling and yeah, you know, see the world and see nature. Ooh, you guys already booked the tour. So Fred, I don't know if anyone can see the chat, but Freddie and Claude have already booked their tour to Bali. So that's awesome. I hope you guys
Exciting.
have fun. My brother went a few years ago and he said the food and everything is just amazing. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, a lot of trips were canceled due to COVID, unfortunately. I actually got to see iguanas up close. That was one of my favorite things to see that I had, you know, never experienced before. I went and stayed in the kind of like a jungle in Mexico, about like 3 hours out of Puerto Vallarta, and just iguanas in the trees everywhere and just beautiful birds. It was one of the most like amazing things I've ever seen. I've, you know, never got to experience that before. Yeah, so it doesn't look like anyone has any questions. So we will let you guys get on with your night, but we do appreciate you guys coming out. And thank you so much to Alejandro and to Deandra for your guys' beautiful presentation. It was fantastic. And we will be putting it online. So if anyone wants to come back and watch it, definitely do so. I'll be sending an email in the next few days, just with the links to everything. So yeah, so thank you, Alejandro, Deandra. Thank you, everyone at home watching. We hope you have a great World Wildlife Day. I mean, it was yesterday, but it still counts. Yeah, thank you, Miluska.
Yaluska.
Name. Oh my goodness. I don't have my glasses, so I can't read. Perfect. So everyone have a great night, all right?
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank
you.
you. Bye.